Today, I'm going to show you how to get your Master Captain's License for coastal boating. The Florida Captain is about my journey on the west coast of Florida as a licensed master yacht captain. So a bit about me, my background. Born in the Midwest, small town, got into advertising and marketing at a very young age, moved to Dallas, Texas, and eventually made my way to Florida. It's a career that I love. It's a career that I'm still involved in, but one of my dreams from the moment I stepped foot on an ocean-going yacht at probably the age of 11 was to own my own boat. And this month, August 2023, I became a licensed master coastal captain. Not quitting my day job, but this for me is a hobby. I don't golf, I don't do anything else. I just enjoy the water and boating. I bought my first boat at 17, saved a lot of money to do that. It was $3,000, by the way. Since then, I've owned 11 boats up to 50 feet. Same time period, by the way, I've owned 5 cars. That tells you where my priorities are. But love it, love all things about it. So the first thing that I want to do with you is to take you through the process I did to become a licensed coastal captain. I did a lot of research. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I found the process very confusing in terms of the options available. And I didn't hear a lot through the resources I found about what the process actually took, hours involved, and how difficult was it, and how to prepare, and those kinds of things. So I'm going to take you through that today. We're going to start this in a 2-part series of getting your coastal captain's license, and then we're going to start boating after that. Stay tuned. So what's it take to get your boat captain's license? It's a confusing journey, and one that I had to do a lot of research to even figure out what I was looking for. And so on the west coast of Florida, becoming a coastal captain may be a little different in the United States than some inland lakes and rivers, some state certifications and those things. And so my process was to go through a U.S. Coast Guard certified course to first become an operator of uninspected passenger vehicles, or an OUPV captain. The OUPV license is the first step. It allows you to carry up to 6 paying passengers on a uninspected or a vessel that has not been inspected by the Coast Guard. And that counts for almost any kind of boat. I mean, the limit there really is up to 6 paying passengers. You can have crew. So I can have a boat of 9 people, me plus 2 crew plus 6 paying passengers, but you don't want to play games with it. If there are 7 guests aboard and you're claiming that 6 paid, that really doesn't count, and you could get caught. So let's not do that. But the OUPV was the first level. It requires a fair amount of sea time, and sea time is pretty lenient, but you do need to be on a boat, and you do need to be logging those hours either after the fact. You can self-report those things, but the Coast Guard is going to want to see either that you owned that vessel, so you're going to provide a proof of ownership, or that they're going to want to sign off from the person who owned the vessel that you were participating in that. I opted to get my 25-ton master, which is the next step up from OUPV. That allows you to operate a inspected vessel with more than 6 passengers. So that's really how you start to get into something larger. You can then quickly go up to 50 ton and 100, 200 ton. So the passenger limitation stops really at OUPV, and then you get into a gross tonnage, and that's what's going to drive the option of where you want to go next with your captain's license. So for me, I had the sea time. Through all those boats I own, including a couple that were large enough to be in that 25-ton range, I had enough sea time to do it. So the rest of it was the rules of the road and the safety process, first aid, CPR, and it was a thorough process. I opted for an online course called From Mariner's Learning System after reading some reviews. It was a way that I could do 99% of what I needed to do online at my own time in a year period. As you might imagine, I had a year to do it. Guess how long it took me to do it? It took me a year minus about 3 days. And so the old adage about you fill the time that's you've been given or that's available to you, that happened here. So it was convenient because I could do it at night. I could do it on weekends. I could do it on airplanes as I fly a lot in my other career. But the downside is it's not intensive. So you're having to remember what you learned 51 weeks ago as you're going through the testing process and those things. But for me, Mariner's Learning System was great. I really enjoyed the process. I thought the price was fair. I thought the online resources and the testing process was good. At any time, there's a live chat available, and I was able to get someone in seconds when I needed to ask a question. And so let's dive into that process. Let's dive into what that looked like. I'm going to show you the public resources I can for it. I'll talk you through the rest of that and where you go from there. And then let's dive into what the Coast Guard requires to really do this right. So let's dive into the OUPV license. So first of all, I told you I opted to get my 25-ton. With Mariner's Learning System, you end up buying the 25-ton endorsement license, and it includes both the OUPV and the 25-ton master. And so basically, I first did my OUPV, then separately, I did another much shorter course to do the 25-ton master. So starting with the OUPV, I want to talk a little bit about the license requirements. Again, you can see these on the Coast Guard website or on the Mariner's Learning System website. So just for the OUPV, you first need 360 days of documented experience in the operation of a boat. 90 of those days needs to have occurred in the last 3 years. Important clarification that I learned along the way was 4 hours in the water or more counts as a day. So if you go out for the afternoon and it's 4 hours, you count that as a day. First thing you're going to do, first thing I chose to do to get a quick win was to get a Transportation Workers Identity Card. And so that's called a TWIC card. You do that at the Department of Homeland Security. I visited a DHS facility near me in St. Pete, Florida. And the whole process was an appointment followed by maybe 30 minutes. And in the mail, I got myself an official TWIC card. And again, nice quick win, nice quick thing you can do. Got to be 18 years of age. Got to be legal to work in the United States. You must be able to pass a doctor's physical. You must be able to pass a Department of Transportation drug test. You will have to complete both CPR and first aid training. That can be one course, but you need it to be both CPR and first aid. And then, of course, you have to actually complete successfully with minimum scores to pass the Mariner's Learning System test. And you're going to fill out the big application, get it off to the Coast Guard. So those are the first steps we have to do. So I'm going to take you through now some of the forms you have to do. Form number 1 is the Coast Guard 719B. That's your main application, and there's going to be an oath you need to take and have it notarized. And so that oath, you can download a template online. It's a paragraph, and you can take it anywhere where you can get a notarization. Your bank may do it for free, the UPS store, and you literally just sign it while they're there. That's the only thing that needs to be notarized, not your main application. Second thing you need to do is your Coast Guard 719S Small Vessel Sea Service Form. These allow you to put in days boated by month across a period of 5 years. And so if you want to do more than 5 years, you just use 2 forms. You might put 5 years on Form 1, you might put 2 more years on Form 2. Use as many as you need. You will save those for renewals in the future. The next piece is a 719P. That's your Department of Transportation Coast Guard periodic drug test. So I just looked up in my area USCG approved drug test. For me, it was at a Walgreens through a LabCorp operation, and it was a real quick process. And again, it took about 4 days to process and get those results, and then I could fill out that form. Following that is the 719K medical form. And so I opted to not go to my primary care physician for my physical because when you download the form, the 719K, it's pretty elaborate. I mean, it's well north of 10 pages. And so there were some very specific things on it that I thought some experience would matter. And so I looked for a USCG approved physical or medical physical. And I found a specialist who did these in the Sarasota, Florida area, just made an appointment. I think it was maybe $100-$120. But what was nice was the physician, while he was doing the process, was filling out the form. He had obviously done this many, many times. And it was very quick, very easy. And I think if a doctor was not used to this process, we could have missed something. I might have had to go back. So that's why I chose to do that. I mentioned the TWIC card. Again, I would do this first. It's a quick application. Just look up Transportation Workers Identification Card, TWIC application. It's all through the Homeland Security Department and really, really easy. The physical and the drug test were essentially the only things I had to do in person. You got to be in person with a doctor for the physical. You got to be in person to do the drug test for obvious reasons. The first aid was all online. So again, I searched the internet for U.S. Coast Guard approved first aid and CPR course. Then I talked to those providers because I just wanted to make sure, double check that it was in fact all valid and would be accepted. So I did a combination CPR first aid course. And then you do a proctored exam at the very end, which was pretty lenient, where a CPR specialist, a first aid specialist, is walking you through things. Lastly, you are getting your certificate from Mariners Learning System. There are minimums you have to do to pass the test. I would recommend to you to really use the study materials, to use the electronic flashcard. If you can compress the time where you can remember it better, I would do that too. But you'll have review, you'll have sample tests, you'll have different things you can do. You're going to get that certificate, and then you're ready to put all of that together. There is about a $150 application fee to the Coast Guard. You're going to package all up, and they actually prefer you email it versus mail it. And so the nice part of that is you'll get updates along the way in terms of like where you are in the application process. For me, the whole process was about a 35 to 45 day process, and it was quick and easy. So this is part one. And part two of this video, we're going to dive into a little more depth on some of these things, and I'll see you soon. Stay tuned.